You're listening to the Renegade Blitz podcast, a podcast for Steelers fans by Steelers fans. Follow us on Twitter at Renegade Blitz, read articles on renegadeblitz.com, and like us on Facebook. And welcome back to the Renegade Blitz. I'm Ty Polk with Chris Ward and Brandon Walker, and we're about to recap the loss for the Steelers. They lost 26-17 to the Las Vegas Raiders. At least we got the losing out of the way early, I guess. You don't have to see the Steelers lose in week 12 or week 13, whatever it was. It's been so long ago, and it's repressed memories, but this one is going to stink for a while, possibly.
Yeah, it's never easy when Steelers lose to the Raiders. For some reason, John Gruden's 2-0 against Mike Tomlin, who used to be an assistant coach on Gruden's staff when he was in Tampa Bay. And Ben's 2-6 in his career against the Raiders. So just the Raiders have always given the Steelers fits.
I agree. I had a feeling this was going to be close. I had a feeling that they would cover this game. I don't know what the final score was, but I bet you I did cover the spread if I betted on the team. The better team won yesterday, I believe. The more balanced team, the more physical team won the game yesterday. Better team on both sides of the ball, bottom line.
Yeah, I think the better passing team won. Certainly the Raiders were the better passing team yesterday, and that deep shot to Henry Ruggs III, well, that was a killer. That was the one where I think if you were watching that game, it's like, boom, there goes the dynamite when it comes to the Steelers' chance of winning that game. Yes, there was still a little bit to play, but that's one moment you could point to. You could also point to, again, Mike Tomlin just not having faith in his offense and electing to try to punt the ball away and try to make his defense get a stop, which they could not. And it effectively sealed the game from there. Yeah,
I seen some people, arguing against, they didn't think it was a bad decision by Tomlin to, punt the ball because they say that they stopped them. Well, they did give up a first down, but my point is that they gave up 2:32 up on the clock. That's valuable time in a two-possession game. And the main thing is that the defense was gassed and they were decimated by injuries. You saw Roethlisberger coming off the field. He looked obviously frustrated by the decision, and he had some interesting comments after the game too, where he said basically he had no decision in it. No say really. He was just coming off the field, and the punt team ran out there. And it was funny on Sunday night. The Ravens in prime time, they did the complete different situation, but they did the complete opposite. John Harbaugh asked Lamar Jackson, do you want to go for it? And, they went for the win there. I mean, a little bit different because, it's pretty much a no-brainer there. You have a 1-point lead and, a little bit over a minute left to go. You don't want to give the ball back to Mahomes.
Nope. You're right about that. I didn't think – they have no offensive identity. That's their issue. What I think is people are not going to admit it now, but everybody knows it. Ben is officially washed up. He's officially washed up. He looks like a quarterback is just going through the motions, looking for one last payday. That's what I think.
Yeah, and we mentioned this back in March. We just didn't think this team was set up for him, especially in the offensive line. He lost most of his offensive line, left. And the receivers that they got outplayed compared to what the Raiders receivers were doing. Like I mentioned the time before the show that Hunter Renfrow made some incredible grabs there. And, Claypool had a couple of opportunities where he didn't come up with the catch. I know we were talking about that play in the end zone. That was a tough play because Casey Hayward did make a good defensive play there in the end zone. But the one where he got hit late in the game, maybe, that's a tough play, but you have to make those sometimes.
Yeah, Casey Hayward went back into the time machine on Sunday. There's no way to explain it. The interceptions leader in 2016 really showed his worth in that game, man. That deflection over Claypool had it in his hands. That was just jarred loose. There's a situation where you just have to go, that's a great play by a corner. And also, one more thing, that 4th and 1 situation, look, I understand that it's tough for the Steelers offense to get a yard, but 4th and 1, entire playbook's open. I expect someone on a quick slant to hang on to the ball. You're not going to Ebron in that situation, but surely you could just say, hey, Juju, this is why we have you here. We need that catch. Make that play. And I also expect that I know that it's been tough sledding for Najee Harris this entire running attack. I don't think James Conner would be making that play on 4th and 1, so I don't blame him for punting. But there's just a certain situation where you just go with your rookie running back, and he has shown that he can make something out of nothing. I just think that at the very least, you try to hand it off to him. You try to make some little shifty play there and just say, I need you to get at least 2 yards.
Which he's perfectly capable of doing, but he's probably going to give up what I was going to talk about later this week with the Courier because I get the right there. I would say you should build your offense around Harris. You should at this point. You got too many not disrespectful, but miscommunications amongst the offensive line. I mean, no, offensive line, yes, because they're young. Between Ben and DeAndre Johnson, Ben and Claypool, and I think he's the guy that can turn your offense around, build your offense around him. If your offensive line can run block better than I think your run blocking comes first. You develop your run blocking, then you develop your pass blocking, and then you get those chunk plays that they wanted because they only had 2 yesterday on that one drive to make it 16-14.
Yeah, going back to that 4th and 1 situation. I agree. I mean, if you can't get a yard, I mean, you don't deserve to win the game in that certain situation. I mean, and I've seen people talking about Derek Watt had 0 offensive snaps. I mean, you pay this fullback all that money, like why don't line up in a high formation, power formation, and hand it off to Najee Harris to get that yard? Or, there's also why not quarterback sneak it with Roethlisberger? I mean, Tom Brady's 44 and he's excelled at the quarterback. He's the art of the quarterback sneak. I just don't understand why they, like I mentioned on Twitter, like it wasn't the main reason why they lost, but I mean, it clearly wasn't the right decision by Tomlin to punt the ball there when the defense was tired and, so many injuries. And I know they only gave up 1 first down, but they did lose some clock there. It was 2:32. The Raiders ran down there. So, in a tight ball game like that, every minute counts. And, say that if they did go down there and had a long drive and got a touchdown, that would have made it they were down 9. So say then you make it a 2-point game. Maybe the defense has a little bit more rest and, maybe they get a 3 and out then.
There's a lot of things you could think of right there. With Derek Watt, you've seen the Steelers have, I remember specifically during the offseason, they had a play on Twitter that had Derek Watt in as an H-back. And that's a pretty good idea, especially whenever you have a blocking tight end and Freiermuth, who, by the way, is basically tight end number 1 now. I've officially jumped off the Ebron train, in case you haven't wondered. That tweet by the Renegade Blitz podcast page, that was from me. So, yes, I have finally jumped off the train. I have finally left the station when it comes to that. So, as far as I'm concerned, I put it to you like this. Put Freiermuth out there, put Watt out there, move him in as an H-back, and you at least have 2 blockers out there that could hopefully do some sort of lead blocking, as long as Trey Turner's not spitting on someone.
Yeah. Oh, so you're on the Penn State Pat bandwagon.
I was looking for the only reason I was on the Ebron bandwagon last year is because at least for the first half of the season he was a reliable tight end catching threat. Now that, come on, man, there's just some things that's just like you gotta have it at that point. And when Ben Roethlisberger does his legendary pump fake and then it's going to Ebron and it's a typical drop, there's just like a certain point where it's like, all right, man, you got to make something happen out here. I want to believe in this guy. I really do. I think he was a pretty good tight end for what it is, but whenever I see that there is a better option out there, I could see where other people are going like, yeah, they should make a move.
Did somebody really spit on him first?
I don't know how I don't know how that could happen. It's at least with a like cage and all that stuff. If Trey Turner managed to spit through that cage and actually get on a jersey right there, he should go become a sharpshooter for the FBI or something like that. Because that's art
Crazy.
right there. I'm sorry, but it's something that he shouldn't have done, and it's just. I mean, you can understand like trying to stand your ground against the coach, even though that's the wrong thing. Because he did try. Because I do remember that last game against the Chiefs with that one player for the Browns. Yeah, that coach did push him first, but he shouldn't have pushed back. But I can understand where it's going. Like you're not gonna be by someone out there in basically a jacket. But when it comes to just spitting on another man, it's just like, dude, you could do anything else there. You could forearm shiver him in the face mask. You could slap him in the head with the face mask. You could rip his helmet off. There's just something better you can do in that situation.
I mean, there was no video evidence as far as the player spitting on him.
I didn't see spittle.
Yeah. There was a clear shot of Trey Turner spitting on a Raiders defender by CBS. And, Tomlin said after the game, basically like, someone spit on him first, and that was the way he reacted. That's why he reacted the way he did. Tomlin made no mention about Turner. I don't even know if he knew that Turner did spit on a Raiders defender, but he didn't feel like that he should have been ejected from the game. He thought it just should have been offsetting penalties. But definitely, if he did get spit, like as he claims he could spit, that's definitely rough. But in that situation, you gotta be cool and not stoop to their level, really, because I mean, you just don't want like you said, like a punch or like a forearm thing would have been better than spitting. Because
it just looks better.
It looks bad.
Even though punching and forearm shivering a helmet is dumb, but it still looks better.
Yeah, it's just not a look. It's low class type of move. And as we mentioned, Turner did say that he got spit on first, but and also in a COVID era too, like NFL's not going to be happy. Like he's going to get fined. I read that he's not going to get suspended, but you can expect a pretty hefty fine there.
There's no place for spitting anywhere. That's like if you did that on the street, come on, that's a fight. Don't do anything on that field that you ain't gonna do in the street. It's crazy.
And this isn't the first time that there's been a little bit of a controversy when it comes to a Raiders-Steelers game. Remember when Richard Seymour, famously known as a New England Patriot, but at this moment, whenever it happened, was an Oakland Raider, he basically cheap shot at Ben Roethlisberger.
Yeah, he did. I remember that.
Yeah, Raiders-Steelers games, you just never know what's going to happen. They're always close, and unfortunately, lately the Raiders have had the Steelers number, like I mentioned earlier in the podcast. But it definitely not a good look there with the spitting. You don't want that in the game.
So let's just continue with the rest of the offense out there. Guys, do we have any hope for the Steelers running game right now? I thought this zone blocking scheme was going to do something, but maybe it's taking a little bit more time to gel. But I didn't expect 39 total yards rushing. I was expecting like maybe something in the 70s, which would be fine. But it just feels like it was rock bottom last year, and they're still at it.
You only run the ball 10 times. You ain't even giving it a chance. You're really not. You should have established the running game. The running game is there. I don't care if you get 2 yards, 3 yards a pop. You stick with the running game, especially with this type of offense, with the offensive line. The best thing for your offensive line is to run block. Have that confidence that you move that man from point A to point B. And that will wear down the defense later in the game. And that also helps with your pass protection. Because you ain't going to be blowing off the ears if you're getting hurt, getting knocked off the ball consistently. So it works all the time. It has been classic since day one of football, from Pop Warning to high school to college to NFL, and even your play senior citizen football. And they'll have that one day.
They just they can't get anything going with the run game. It's just like seems like there's always someone in the backfield just hitting Najee Harris before he could really get going. So they had a couple nice runs where they had a pulling guard and a tight end coming through, and Najee had a big hole for that. But yeah, I would like some of the jet sweeps do work. We mentioned earlier before the show about the Juju touchdown that he had on the jet sweep. I do like the motions and stuff, and like the kind of the misdirection that Canada has on in his offense. And I was hoping like that would help the run game, but so far it hasn't come to fruition. But they definitely need to get that run game going because they can't have Ben Roethlisberger getting hit 10 times and sacked twice. I mean, those were some vicious hits too that he took yesterday. And I put on Twitter that if that continues, I don't know if Roethlisberger is going to last the whole season with some of especially with some of those hits, like that Max Crosby hit that he took. He definitely has to be frustrated with how the offense line is protected, and they definitely need to shore things up there because it'll be a long season if not.
Yeah, because that's why he keeps doing those. They can't even trust the offensive line. They do quick hitches and everything up, quick hitches, screen passes. But I still think you got to go with the run game because I think Najee Harris is your best skill position player at this point. I know we talked about who's the receivers, but I think Harris is your best skill position player, running, passing. You got to give him the ball at least 20 to 25 times a game or this offense ain't going to work.
Can they even get that? Can they even allow themselves to have that right now? That's the question. It's still the slow starts offensively that has always plagued the Steelers, no matter what, whether that offense was flying high or what they're doing right now. It's too much right now, and that's one of the reasons. When you're down, you have to throw the ball 40 times. And that's
But
why
But they weren't down that much. I mean, they had 9 points. They was down 9 points. That is still doable. You can still go with your running game deep into the third quarter, into the fourth, stick with the running game. Oakland did it yesterday. Even though they had 39 yards themselves, they ran the ball 25 times. And guess what happened at the end? When they got that last field goal to ice the game, what was it? That 13-yard run off right guard.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, they definitely – that was a huge run in the game. And it's just like this offense has no rhythm. I mean, and as Brandon mentioned, how like a bunch of quick passes and stuff, hitch routes, and Roethlisberger getting the ball out quick because that offensive line's so bad. It looks no different than last year's offense, really. And that's it's only 2 games and everything, but that's disappointing to see. And with Roethlisberger getting hit like he did, I wouldn't be surprised if that's the game plan going in against the Bengals, was just getting the ball out quick. And they have to start getting things over the middle of the field because Roethlisberger, he'll throw his occasional, like he still has a good arm, like he could throw the deep ball, like he's shown that he could complete those, like he did yesterday, the one to Deontay Johnson and Chase Claypool. But I would like to see a little bit more over the middle of the field and just a little bit more rhythm. Like he doesn't have that bend. They don't have AB anymore, obviously, but he doesn't have that chemistry with any of the receivers right now.
Oh no! Did you see that one pick he threw? He just like went and he just stopped on the route.
Yeah, Deontay.
He been there throw kind of a duck, but he could have fought for that ball. It looked bad. I knew that was going to be interception the minute that came out of his arm. I'm like, and I definitely knew it was going to be picked when I saw him just walk, like just gave up on the route, and he does that consistently, at least one time a game.
Deontay?
Yeah.
Deontay, yes. You remember that?
There was so much confusion about that because I was saying on Twitter that they were saying it was a miscommunication. It wasn't a give up on the route, or I seen miscommunication, all types of stuff. I saw bad throw, miscommunication, and then of course of quitting on the route.
Yeah, he quit on the route. It was a whole conglomerate of bad execution to lead to that turnover.
Yeah. I'll have to look back on it, rewatch the game, but I know he definitely had a miscommunication later in the game where Roethlisberger threw the ball, like it was like nowhere even near the receiver. But I think on the interception, it might have been where he gave up on the ball though.
He gave up on the run. Hey, he was.
I know Charles Davis said it.
Yeah.
Brandon.
Yeah, he did say that. I was at home watching it. I'm like, it happens at least twice a game with him. So, it's going to be a thing all season long with him, with Claypool. And I think they should start giving the ball to Penn State Pat. Yes, that is my guy. Don't ask why he is. He just is. I think he's the best tight. He's going to be the second best tight end of this draft, and I think he's going to be a player for him. They need to just start trusting him with the ball, especially in third down situations.
Yeah, I would like to see, like in that against Buffalo when he had that over the middle catch in the second half there. I would like to see more of that with Freiermuth, or play action, or the RPOs that they do. That would be a good to get Freiermuth more involved.
Right.
Right now, just like the receivers, like they're just okay right now. They're
okay.
Not spectacular. Like they're not living up to really their hype or their potential. I'd like to see Juju get more involved with, back to good, over the middle. I mean, it just. I
think they need him over the middle at this point. He wants to be an outside guy, but they need him over the middle.
Yeah, I think he's a slot guy. I know he wants to be an outside guy because of the money, and
he could be it. But this offense cannot do an outside receiver unless it's a Claypool or Johnson right now.
Yeah, they're best suited for the outside.
Right.
He has to accept his role in the slot, and also maybe James Washington. I was saying before the show about how he had 12 snaps and I think he had one target and it was like a drop or something like that.
You are correct. One target. I'm looking at it right now.
Yeah,
it was.
Maybe get him involved. He's a good. He always showed great hands and stuff. Get him on some deep passes or something like that. They got to extend. They did throw the ball a little more deep against the Raiders, but Roethlisberger wasn't very efficient. He did have the 2 deep balls that he connected on, but I think he was like 2 for 9 and had 1 interception, I think. But this offense is definitely concerned. Matt Canada, he really hasn't impressed. I mean, it's a small sample size, 2 games, but
I think it's really personnel. But I think it's personnel and how I think it's personnel now more than how they are deployed, because they're doing stuff like a regular NFL offense right now. And one thing I want to talk about personnel wise is what we've been gouging upon mostly because it depends on everything else, and that's the offensive line. Chukwuekorfor got bowled over by Max Crosby. There's no question about that. And I'm sorry, but there's no possible way in the NFL that you have an offensive lineman like that, unless you're Alejandro Villanueva of the Ravens. But that guy was basically playing Ring Around the Rosie. At least Chooks tried to stand in there with that guy, which you can respect. But sorry to diatribe about Villanueva, but yeah, I'm pretty sure most Steelers fans have seen that. But right now, Chukwuekorfor, thank you. Really appreciate your service, but there's got to be something better here. I now want to see Mitchell Schwartz out here. I'd be like, you gotta have something out there. There's just no pulse on the edge tackles right now, outside Dan Moore.
Yeah, he's been okay. I have to. I mentioned I have to watch the game, but I haven't seen people that have watched. People that are big into analytics and stuff, or analysts. They said Kevin Dotson didn't have a good game yesterday. So that's interesting. I know Kendrick Green is a much better run blocker than he is in the pass blocking department. So they really don't have any elite guys on their offensive line right now. And maybe Zach Banner comes back in week 4 and take Chooks out, put Banner in. Maybe he'll help a little bit, but I don't know. I don't know what's going on with Banner's knee. I know he had an ACL injury that was week 1 last year. So I don't know if he he did regress what they said from the reports, but the ACL injuries are always tricky and stuff. And, he's a big guy too, as being an offensive lineman.
So I'm just saying, do you think this is a talent issue, or do you just think their chemistry isn't where it needs to be? Because it usually takes about half a season to get your chemistry down.
I think chemistry would help right now, but right now I don't see much on a talent aspect in terms of that. I just don't know. It's just like sometimes I kind of get why people questioned why they decided to go offensive line so late. But also, when you look at some of the, like, they were connected to Tevin Jenkins. Tevin Jenkins is not playing right now for the Bears. He's hurt. It only looks good because of that right now. The question is there enough talent on this to even buy time for them to gel? I don't know if there's enough talent right now that you could see where they can have that time to say, okay, let's see what we got.
Oh, sorry. What round did these two go in?
Green third, Moore fourth.
Mid-round picks, yeah.
And they could probably develop into something right now, but with what the Steelers committed to with Ben Roethlisberger, it was not what was needed on the docket. And I love Najee's stiff arm yesterday, but I'm kind of seeing why people were going like, I don't know about that. But they kind of painted themselves into a corner with the running back situation. But also, I don't know if the offensive line would have helped anything because not even Trey Sermon's playing right now. So what are they going to do? It's kind of just a damned if they do, damned if they don't situation. And right now it looks bad. It might look good in a few weeks, but I'm not sure.
Yes,
you're right about that. Yeah, we have to see by week 8, if it's week 8, week 9, you might as well chalk that up. But, y'all don't gotta. So you got Mitchell Schwartz is out there. So, but your only real egregiously bad spot, I think, is your right tackle.
I think maybe that plays a role in what I think of it. I just don't think that Okorafor is as good as we thought he was, or he is what we thought he was in case of some Steelers fans. So the question is, do I want to have an extended look at Banner to see if there's something like that? Yeah. You put so much time into the guy. He's coming back after an injury, and in the very limited sample size they had with the Giants, as far as this is going off memory, he didn't look bad. And that was like one of the few times in which the Steelers had at least an offensive line that could do something in the running game in those first 5 games.
We'll see. We'll see if he comes back and they see if he can make an impact. He can't do more worse than Okorafor.
Yeah. Truce Okorafor's been pretty. He's been abysmal, and we were wary of this going into the season because he wasn't that good last year. And I really didn't have very high expectations for the offensive line going into the season. And Roethlisberger too. You're seeing he doesn't have that mobility. His age has shown. Like he wasn't throwing dimes out there like Derek Carr was.
Stopping dimes.
Yeah, he wasn't in the zone, or he didn't have that rhythm. I don't know. I just don't know about. It's still early. It's week 2, but I just don't know if Roethlisberger will be able to, carry this team on his shoulders like he once did.
He can't. He can't.
And that goes back to your point with Najee Harris getting those 25 carries a game, or really exploding. Getting receptions out of the backfield and getting a lot of rushing yards as well. Kind of like what Christian McCaffrey did against the Saints yesterday.
Yeah.
So let's move on over to the defensive side of the ball, and I'm no longer going to doubt Derek Carr anymore. I'm not going to do it anymore. That's no longer the hill I'm going to die on, at least with him. I can now be convinced, like, okay, this guy's legit. Like, I think he's a solid starter in this league now after seeing it in person, seeing the Monday night game. Of course, it's very early in the season, and he does have a tendency to tail off, but there's been enough good things over the course of his career that I can now no longer tie him into his brother, at least in terms of not being exactly what we thought he could be. Because he was free. He didn't have to worry about Marcus Mariota occasionally taking a read option snap. He just went out there and played, and he looked pretty good.
Right. Tevin TJ Watt got out of the game kind of helped too.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, that helped a little bit. But then again, but they got some weapons. They got Renfro. You got Ruggs, who is going to be one of the best. I think by year's end, he might be the best deep threat in the NFL. With Carr, if he develops that chemistry with Carr, watch out.
Yeah, the Raiders are predicated off speed, and they finally have a speed guy that can actually catch the ball in Ruggs. So that's the one good thing for them right now. They have Waller as well. Renfro looks like he could be something. Kenyon Drake, he's always looked like this guy that you don't know about him, but you know that at least when he's on his game, he's solid. And yesterday he was solid.
Right. You got Peyton Barber, who had that nice run. And the thing that impressed me about our offensive line didn't look too bad. I mean, they had that one moment when TJ Watt, Leatherwood had a couple struggles, but other than that, they did their thing. I know they didn't run the balls particularly well, but I still thought they did just enough in the running game for Derek Carr to make an impact, get his chunk plays down the field.
Yeah, their left tackle, Cole Miller, who's probably their best offensive lineman, had a really good game. I thought you didn't really hear too much from Highsmith. Melvin Ingram had a pretty solid game. He was going up against that backup right tackle, and like you mentioned, Leatherwood, he was struggling big time. I thought TJ Watt was going to have another, one of those games, but unfortunately, he had that groin injury, and what a big blow there with Tyson Alualu, a fractured ankle, and the reports are not really good right now. Some are saying that he could be out for the rest of the year, or he's going to be out for an extended period of time, Tomlin said. So that's not good news for the defense. And even before the game, it was announced that Joe Hayden and Devin Bush were out with both were dealing with groin injuries. So and then you've got Stephon Tuitt, who's on injured reserve right now with a knee injury. That's 5 starters they essentially didn't have against the Raiders yesterday on defense.
Let's take a look at this injury situation with the Steelers. And you mentioned the groin. Yeah, there was 3 of them. Who else? Devin Bush had one, TJ Watt, and I believe Hayden had it as well.
Yeah, Hayden did too.
I don't know what's up with that, but it reminds you of the situation a little bit before the season started with the Ravens, in which everyone was tearing up an ACL or Achilles injury. I'm not exactly sure what constitutes getting a groin injury. Is it just it's close to a hernia? I know that the sports hernia stuff like that, but I don't know if it's stretching or something like that, or getting caught up in the turf. I just don't know how to stop groin injuries. I'm fortunate to never have to deal with a groin injury.
Yeah, it's like more. I think sometimes it's like early in the season type thing. Like you have cramps. It always happens like at the beginning of the year. I think TJ Watt's going to be fine, but I think part of it is he didn't really have wasn't exactly in game shape. Not that he needed to be in game shape, but having a little bit more game shape in the preseason could have helped him out, and that could have prevented it.
Yeah, there's a lot of things with that, but then you look at the other 2 guys and go, okay, if you mentioned that about game shape, then what about those guys? Because they've played a solid bit in the preseason, and of course, were largely full participants in training camp. Right.
I mean, it could happen early in the season. That's just something I think is an early season thing. But I mean, this defense have gave up a lot of yards these first 2 games, more than their usual. So, I mean, number 1 defensive team or top tier defensive team, what did they give up? 3. I don't have the exact number. They gave up over 400 yards on 382 to Carr. I don't know the exact number to Josh Allen, but he threw for a lot of yards. What's going on with the secondary? How do you feel about this defense right now?
Well, 425 total yards for the Raiders. So, okay. And in terms of passing, 373. So, yeah, that's not very good. But I think this is giving a lot of proof to how much Joe Hayden means to this team. Ahkello Witherspoon, I know some people are trying to give up on him early, but there's just like a certain bit I want to give that guy a bit more time, because he's a rangy corner, and you need those 6'3" corners out there, especially against some of these giants at receiver. So I'm going to give him a little bit more time. but
he shouldn't be going up against Ruggs.
Yeah,
that one he burnt. That's the corner that he's 25. The one who got like got very scorched by Henry Ruggs on that play, right? That was him.
Yeah,
that was him. Okay, I was wanting to make sure that was him and not Norwood because I knew he was a long name on his back. I'm like, I can't read the name. He got burned.
He leaned on Waller there. That was just a great play. I mean, the Steelers, like Tomlin said after the game, they have to keep a lid on it, but the Raiders did a really good job of executing that play. Sometimes you just get got there, and that's what happened.
Yeah, it happens. You get burned occasionally, and I know some people want to put it on Minka back there. He's the center fielder or so, but there's only so much you could do whenever you run single high out there. Yeah. He's got to choose a certain location to be.
Yeah, but for the rest of the cornerbacks, I didn't think they had a really good day. Cam Sutton, he had a missed tackle, I know, on that one play where he let up a first down. And James Pierre, Renfro, Ruggs, and he even gave up a touchdown there to Edwards, but it was called back because Leatherwood was called for holding. So, yeah, Pierre didn't have a good day either, which was kind of disappointing because you wanted to see him make that leap there with Joe Hayden inactive.
You guys want to talk about at least like the linebacker situation in terms of that? Schobert had 2 passes defended, and Spillane had to fill back in because of Bush's status that game, and it just hasn't been last year for old Bob Spillane.
He did have a better game when it came to run stopping though.
You expect that with him.
Yeah. As far as pass cover, like they didn't really have any situations where he got exposed in there. It was more Schobert. Schobert actually didn't have a good game in pass coverage. He gave up a touchdown to Moreau there, the tight end for the Raiders, the backup tight end, and then he got beat by Waller for 25 yards late in the game on that final drive where they iced the game. So it wasn't a good day for Schobert. Spillane actually he led the team in total tackles with 12. So he actually was a kind of a positive, like along with Boswell, who had the record for longest field goal in the history of Heinz Field, where he made a 56-yard field goal. So
in the wind tunnel too.
Yeah. So if you want to say winners, like I guess he goes Spillane, Boswell, and then you have to give it to like Najee Harris for making that 25-yard catch and run for a touchdown. But
plus
the rest,
the stiff arm.
Yeah, the stiff arm, and then Deontay Johnson, he did have a 41-yard grab, but I mean the inconsistency there, and Chase Claypool just didn't do enough. I know he had that big reception, but just not enough there to be a standout for the game.
Right. I mean, they were on the field for 35 minutes throughout the game.
Yeah, they 11 yards.
I think they gave up them chunk plays. Number one, against TJ Watt got hurt. I'm talking about balance on the offense. It keeps going back. We always talk about, but it always circles back to the offense. You have to establish balance on your offense, and it also hurts your defense too, because they've been on the field way too long.
Yeah, 35-25 in time of possession is not a winning recipe for the Steelers. They were beat in time of possession last week against the Bills. That's something that was lost in the glamour of the victory of it all.
And they also lost the turnover battle with Roethlisberger's one interception, and the Raiders ended up turning that into a field goal. So in tight games like that, every point counts.
And it's going to be, because they're going to be in a lot of tight games. This season, we weren't surprised if they lost this game. Are we sitting here surprised that the Steelers lost yesterday?
I'm not really. I mean, especially.
Are you shocked that they lost this game yesterday?
No,
it wasn't like the classic Raiders loss where the Raiders were like it's just abysmal and it ended up being.
It wasn't a Tomlin special.
Yeah. It was once Hayden and Bush were ruled out, and then plus the injuries in the beginning of the game with T.J. Watt and Alou. It definitely kind of made you think, man, this game's going to be tight. The Raiders were coming off a short week, and we're traveling, almost from the West Coast, really. So I don't know. I wasn't really too. I thought the Steelers would win this game, but I mean, it wasn't a shock at all.
Yeah, once you started seeing all the injuries coming in, and then, of course, during in-game the injuries, and just the running game still can't get it together, and you can't fight gravity. That's what happens when I put one word to this Steelers loss. It's gravity.
Yeah, and plus, like you met, Derek Carr played a great game, and he's through first 2 games. I mean, he's been playing. I think he has well over 800 yards through his first 2 games, and he has impressive receiving core. He has Waller, who Gruden thinks is the best player that he ever coached.
Which is hard to say when you look at that entire. I'm like, John, go watch your. It's Tony Dungy's team, but still, go back and look at that Super Bowl. Please do. Because you had guys like Joe Jurevicius, Keenan McCardell, what else? Keyshawn Johnson. You had freaking Rondé Barber. You also had, who was the running back at the time? I can't even remember the running back.
Said Michael Pittman.
Michael Pittman Sr. Michael Pittman Sr. You could go up and down in terms of that.
Allstott,
Mike Allstott. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. You're saying that's the best player you ever coached, and meanwhile, let me take a look at that defense. Derek Brooks, Simeon Rice, Booger McFarland, Warren Sapp, Barber. We mentioned before. John Lynch. Who else? Dexter Jackson, who actually won the Super Bowl MVP award in that Super Bowl against, coincidentally, the Raiders. Yeah, John. Please stop.
Don't forget he coached Jerry Rice also.
He goes Jerry.
Oh
Rice.
Yeah, that's right. Jerry Rice.
No.
Tim Brown.
Jerry Rice, Tim Brown. Before that, he coached it. He was the offensive coordinator in Philly when they had Ricky Waters, Hugh Douglas, Brian Dawkins. He was a young player on that team.
But he wasn't as good as what he would become. So I could give him that. But in terms of who he had at certain points of his career, that's high praise to heap on Darren Waller, who is a great player. But whenever I look at that, there's certain things when you go back and look at his history, you go, are you sure about that?
Yeah, Gruden sometimes he kind of talks
he just talks out of his know what.
Talks pure emotion in the moment too. Waller's a great player. He's great talent there for the Raiders, but and even I was reading some headlines there from the Athletic. The Raiders beat.
He had Khalil Mack at one point as well.
Yeah, that too.
Even for 30 seconds.
Yeah, I was gonna say he traded him away.
But the Raiders defense is playing really well too. They struggled getting after the quarterback and their pass defense last year, and Max Crosby's really coming on there. Yannick Ngakoue. And they got some pretty good players there in the secondary too. Who's that guy that Abraham, the safety?
Abrams?
Yeah, Abrams. Sorry, yeah, Abrams. He's not
kind of a low key dirty player, but okay.
Yeah,
low key
moaning. Moaning for TCU. They have a nice little squad there. Whenever you really take a look at it.
No, they do. I think what. More, I think. If I had some, which I do have some Mahonies. I'm not ready to go there yet. Give me mid-season when we, evaluate the season and whatnot to tell you how I feel about the Las Vegas Raiders, and then I'll give you my bold prediction then. A bold prediction then. Not today. I'm not doing it today. I ain't overreacting right now. But you you beat the Ravens and the Steelers in the span of 6 days.
That's the hard part of the entire division.
That's hard. That ain't easy. I don't know if too many teams have done that.
So yeah, that still would be an impressive victory if they get that. They knocked out 3 of the bigs, at least in most people's eyes, in the AFC North. So there's a lot to see about these Las Vegas Raiders. I'll certainly keep an eye on them out there. And, well, we're about to move on to the next team coming up, and that's the Cincinnati Bengals. We are going to have Charlie Goldsmith of the Cincinnati Enquirer on for our next podcast, a preview podcast for Bengals Steelers, and that will be coming out a little bit later in the week. Well, it's going to be exciting to see what we'll find out more about these Bengals. They're 1-1 on the season so far. They lost their last game, but still, there's a lot of promise out of that team, and it's going to be exciting to talk about it. So until then, for Chris Ward and Brandon Walker, I'm Ty Polk. Thank you for tuning in to the Renegade Blitz. Thank you for listening to the Renegade Blitz podcast. Follow us on Twitter at Renegade Blitz. Read articles on renegadeblitz.com and like us on Facebook. Our podcast is available on Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, TuneIn, Stitcher, YouTube, iHeart, and Spotify.